Look, I know what you're thinking. You're looking at him and you're thinking, you are disgusting. You're probably the ugliest man I've ever seen. But the joke's actually on you, because he actually spent a lot of money and did a very invasive and dangerous procedure to look like this. And it's actually what all the rich people are doing in Hollywood. They're all injecting themselves with young people's blood.
Imagine if you could turn back the clock 5, 10, even 15 years and reverse the effects of aging.
What if you could reverse the aging process simply by getting a blood transfusion?
Scientists may have found a real fountain of youth.
And it is young blood.
One startup company was promoting this young blood treatment for $8,000 a unit.
So apparently rich people are becoming literal vampires and injecting themselves with young people's blood. And since we're rich YouTubers, we want to see what it's all about and try to get some of that sweet, sweet young blood for ourselves. Now, I know what you're thinking. This all sounds fake, right? Like, the only other content creators out there who talk about blood harvesting are guys like this.
Now, these are two vampires that traffic in this who did all this to reportedly thousands of babies. Total, they sold to other men like Bill Gates and others. And Epstein was doing it to at Zorro Ranch, reportedly. Literally wanting to suck babies dry and pump it into these men's veins.
Now, it may sound like a right-wing conspiracy theory, and that's mainly because that's exactly what it is. But if you look past all their stories about mythical demons and their tendency to, blame it all on the homosexuals, we found that there's actually a nugget of truth to these vampire conspiracy theories. We should probably be taking these guys a little more seriously.
Californian textbooks for 8th graders officially have blood drinking and vampirism as part of sexual pleasure, taught for multiple pages.
Okay, I mean, you don't have to take them seriously, but we should still definitely talk about vampires. Now, what do we think of when we think of vampires? Maybe we think of Tom Cruise giving Brad Pitt a hickey during Hollywood's first anti-gravity gay sex scene. Or maybe we think of an otherwise normal guy who gets shiny sometimes. But in early Gothic literature, all vampires had one thing in common. From Lord Ruthven to Countess Karnstein to Dracula, they were all just rich people, just awful aristocrats who lived in fancy castles and sucked the blood of poor peasants in order to give themselves superpowers like, eternal life or the ability to make anyone around them ejaculate on command.
Come.
In a time of crazy wealth inequality and non-stop revolutions against a class of rich, parasitic aristocrats, it's no coincidence that the vampire became a cultural phenomenon. And these cultural symbols had real-world effects. Like, people legitimately believed that vampires existed. Like Countess Elizabeth Bathory, who was arrested in 1614 because the court found she had killed and tortured hundreds of young peasant girls and bathed in their blood as part of a demonic ritual to keep her young. But since then, some stuff happened and people stopped believing in magical demons for the most part. So vampires became a relic of old superstition, but in the 1950s, they started to become real again. At Cornell University, a bunch of scientists got bored. The last cool thing that happened was the invention of the atomic bomb 5 years beforehand, and scientists needed new and exciting avenues for their bloodlust. So they decided to sew these two innocent mice together for no reason. But it turns out they discovered something called parabiosis. Apparently, if you connect the arteries between an old mouse and a young mouse, then the blood of the young mouse makes the old mouse younger. For about 2 weeks, after which both mice died from a mystery illness called parabiotic disease, and they stopped doing these horrible experiments. I know. It's devastating. The mice are no more, but history moves on. Fast forward to 2018 in Vancouver to something called the Superhuman Summit. This is a place where rich people who don't have any real problems are looking to invest in dangerous new procedures to make themselves live forever. They listen to talks from people who call themselves genetic stewards or sonic healers, selling you all these expensive, futuristic ways to increase your Brian power. And that's where Dr. Jesse Karmazin comes up to give the speech that would kickstart his career as a prestigious vampire.
Hello, my name is Jesse Karmazin, and as you heard, I'm the founder of Ambrosia, and we're a company interested in making you young again.
Which is a good pivot because his career as a doctor wasn't really going too well. He was barred from practicing medicine after a mysterious incident in Massachusetts, but we don't know what that was or why. But you know what? We don't need to know. It's probably irrelevant. Here he is talking about an intrusive medical procedure that promises to make you live forever.
Elizabeth Bathory was actually executed for bathing in the blood of young women. And as our science is now demonstrating, well, there probably was a fact to these vampire legends. It probably works.
Now, funnily enough, all the rich people at the Superhuman Summit didn't have any issues with the idea of emulating a monstrous, mythical 17th century vampire. The important question for them was, does being an evil vampire actually work? And as proof of his vampire procedure, he pointed to the same dodgy mouse experiment from the 1950s.
He found that the old mouse, which received the blood of the young mouse, became young again. So its gray hair turned black. It could remember mazes better. Its heart pumped better. In fact, in every way, it became young again.
And that was it. Ambrosia was booming. He started serving customers in Silicon Valley and then spread all across America, charging $12,000 for him to inject you with 2 liters of blood plasma harvested from a young person. Now, look, I'm not a doctor, and I guess neither is Karmazin, but that sounds like a crazy amount of blood to inject into someone, right? I mean, considering your body's already filled to the brim with approximately 5 liters of your own blood. So the question now is, who are Ambrosia's customers? Who are these vampires, these people who walk among us as modern-day versions of 17th century aristocrats, filling themselves to the brim with liters and liters of young blood? It turns out they're called tech bros. They are future-focused entrepreneurs who make more money than you could ever imagine. They're violently ambitious, but they've got one big problem. They've already reached the top. No one's limiting the amount of money they can steal. They control everyone's data. They can even promote or censor information at will. They've simply run out of things to dominate. The only things still out of their control are the laws of nature, and they've dedicated billions of their tax-free dollars into extending their own lives at any cost. Now, I don't want to get sued here, right? I should say that it's very difficult to prove that anyone's actually a vampire. Like, while the majority of their customers are rich guys in Silicon Valley, you know, for obvious reasons, no one's out there publicizing their love of young blood. It's all just allegations and hearsay. But there is some evidence for one modern vampire. He happens to be a famous, controversial, right-wing tech billionaire who co-founded PayPal and grew up in South Africa. You guessed it, it's Peter Thiel. This guy funds every far-right political candidate he can find, and on top of that, he designed the world's most terrifying surveillance tool for the CIA, which he calls Palantir, which is not too dissimilar to his other projects, Mithril Capital, Lembus LLC, Rivendell LLC. These are real companies that he founded. He's not just an evil billionaire trying to control the world, he's also a massive nerd, which, let's be real, is much worse. But if his resume wasn't blood-soaked enough, he also contacted Ambrosia to become a vampire.
And you think that you may live to 120?
I certainly hope to, yes.
Trying to live for a very long time. You've invested in a number of these companies. There have been articles about you with young blood and doing all sorts of crazy things.
See, now I know how Alex Jones feels. Once you find out about these vampires, you start seeing them everywhere. I can't even have a nice evening to myself for a little bit of, me time without seeing vampires.
This intimate of a setting where you're exchanging biofluids.
I have no idea what's going to happen, but I'm excited.
I'm just grateful that we're connected as a family.
You just end up getting a video of a guy harvesting his son's blood to see if it'll make him younger.
What a great experience. You feel the love?
Yes, right.
This guy's actually a YouTuber, and we invited him to collab on this video.
For the 100,000th subscriber, I will give you 1 liter of my plasma. Subscribe below.
His name is Brian Johnson. He's the ex-CEO of Venmo, and just like the other millionaire tech bros, he's now on a quest to reverse his age. He's 45, but apparently he's got the heart of a 37-year-old, the lung capacity of an 18-year-old, and the penis of a 5-year-old. But unfortunately, Brian backed out of the collab when we told him that our video wasn't necessarily going to be pro-blood harvesting. But we're going off topic here. Back to Ambrosia. Things were going great for Karmazin. The only slight hiccup happened when one of his patients died, which he responded to like any serious businessman would, by claiming that the patient faked their own death and sending multiple emails threatening to sue the journalists who broke the story. And then when they showed him the death certificate, he admitted, in light of a death certificate, I have to agree that this patient is dead. So yeah, someone died after doing this experimental procedure, right? So the government has to step in and do something about it. So the FDA warns everyone. It turns out putting 2 liters of someone else's blood inside of you is really dangerous. And there's no actual evidence that having all that foreign blood inside you does anything good. So Ambrosia lost its FDA-approved certification, which is bad news for Karmazin, right? Well, not really, right? Here's the beauty of doing business in a capitalist society. The rules are fake, right? You can do whatever you want. The government can't really stop you. So Karmazin just started another off-label business called Ivy Plasma, servicing the same clients, using the same buildings, essentially exactly the same business. He just didn't have a little sticker that said FDA approved, but he could just keep doing what he was doing. So now the question is, where's this blood coming from? How does he keep getting access to this blood? Well, apparently he just buys it from blood banks. I didn't even know you could do that. It turns out, since American blood banks are for-profit private businesses, they don't necessarily need to sell the donated blood to hospitals for, boring things like life-saving medical treatments. No, they just sell it to the highest bidder, which oftentimes happens to be dumb, rich vampires. Which sounds wild, but it gets even crazier. The US is also one of the only countries in the world that pays people for blood donations, which actually sounds kind of nice, until you think about it for about 5 seconds. You see, these blood banks are pretty much exclusively located in the poorest parts of America. If you're struggling to make ends meet and you come across a billboard saying, "We'll literally buy your blood," chances are you're going to start draining as many litres of blood as you can, which is great for the blood banks. With a dwindling social safety net, every time there's an economic crisis, the blood industry's profits essentially quadruple. It was worth $4 billion before the GFC, and now after COVID, it's worth $48 billion. So we decided to head down to the ghetto to see what American blood donation is all about. Now, we quickly learned that we can't donate since we don't have an American Social Security number, and the fake number I gave them didn't work. So we decided to just hide around the corner and ask donors about it.
So how long have you been donating plasma?
I've been on and off for about, I would say, 10 years.
Wow, a veteran.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What's it like? Is it?
So they stick the needle in your arm. You never get used to getting poked.
And you'll probably feel a little dizzy.
Feeling woozy or lightheaded?
I mean, I try to take a break like 3 to 6 months in between.
Yeah.
Because your arm gets kind of tired after a while.
Yeah.
Now, everyone seemed to be here for the same reason.
So I just been coming here, make ends meet.
It helps get bills paid for the most part.
It helps pay off some bills.
Everything's so expensive here, so like the food has gone up, the prices, the gas. And obviously, if you're rich, you don't need to do it, but
yeah, right.
But it's good for people who are trying to make ends meet.
Yeah.
So these people resort to selling their blood to make ends meet. But the wild part here is that everyone we spoke to was already working a full-time job.
I have a full-time job as a security guard, so this is just something to help me have a little bit of extra money.
When I first started, I had first graduated high school, and I worked at Macy's, and I worked at Burger King.
Yeah.
Well, I work at a restaurant.
I'm a caregiver.
Oh, wow.
So I like my job. I like helping people. So
Yeah. No, it's always so nice helping people. I guess it just doesn't pay.
Yeah. You would think it'd pay more, but it doesn't.
Should. Yeah.
And a lot of soldiers do it too. Like around military bases,
Yeah.
they have plasma centers because the soldiers don't make enough in the army.
So it turns out having a normal full-time job isn't enough to survive in these parts of America. And the blood banks know this, right? And once they realize that you rely on them to survive, they got you by the veins, right? And that's when they start messing with your income.
Do they pay all right? Like, what are the rates like?
Well, before they used to pay more, like about a year ago.
Yeah. And he was mentioning that the prices are like that they pay less and less as time goes on. Or that
they kind of do.
Now, the scariest part for us was the fact that draining that amount of blood that frequently has some really adverse health effects. And it makes it much harder to do your full-time job.
And I was working at Macy's, and as soon as I got to work, I felt lightheaded and fainted. That was like when I was like 21.
For this reason, most countries only let you donate once a month. But you can do it every 48 hours in America.
Yeah, and you're only allowed to donate once a month in Australia.
Once a month.
Yeah. So it's like quite different here.
Do you have any thoughts about it?
I don't know why they do that.
Yeah.
This is honestly really fucked up, and it doesn't stop there. For an extra cruel twist, this company, Octapharma, like many of the blood plasma giants, are actually Australian companies based in Australia, run by Australians, like CEO Paul Perrault of CSL Plasma, pictured here posing next to a mirror to prove to the world that he's not a vampire. You see, the laws in Australia mean that these horrible companies can't make a profit at home, so instead they just suck all the blood out of poor people in America, where, there isn't any government regulation. And these are genuine, hardworking people. They haven't done anything wrong, and they're being abused. It's heartbreaking. Then we remembered, we don't have to care. We're rich YouTubers, right? Like, sure, these guys are, destroying their bodies for $30 a pop, but the more important part is that we can buy their blood for $8,000 and be young forever. Now, ever since Ambrosia's success story, so many copycat businesses popped up, and there's really no shortage of places to get young blood transfusions in the US. But finding a place wasn't the problem. To be honest, the problem was that we were too scared to, inject ourselves with 2 liters of someone else's blood. So at this point, our video would have been over. It would have ended. But then we came across a vampire longevity procedure that was so batshit insane that backing out an opportunity like this was impossible.
Okay, let's talk about this facial that you're obsessed with.
It is an extraction from a piece of skin that came from a young person far, far away, and they somehow figured out how to extract.
It's foreskin from a Korean baby.
I call it the penis facial, and I think when you see how good it is to your face, you too will run to your local facialist and say, "Give me the penis."
These weren't just young people, they were babies. And it wasn't just their blood, it was their goddamn penises injected into your face. It's insane. And everyone was doing it. It's the kind of thing that will make Alex Jones do this. Now, these baby penis procedures aren't just evil and demonic, they're also very expensive and very exclusive with a really long wait list. Luckily, I'd already been in contact with the Korean baby penis clinic when I was back in Australia for other reasons. Things. Actually, Kate Blanchett, I think came to you guys to do the Korean baby penis facial.
Yeah, we have it.
Is it made from foreskins? What is the...
Yeah.
Okay.
First is basically we integrate the microneedling and we use...
Now, I was expecting it to be expensive, but I wasn't expecting it to be painful and bloody. She explained to me that they essentially force the baby penis deep into your face with needles for about an hour, cutting up your face in the process.
It penetrates deep. It really penetrates deeper into the skin. Again, it's up to 40 times deeper.
I was honestly terrified, but in the name of science, I booked an appointment and I was ready to inject some baby penis and be young forever.
I got children's penis in my face.
Yeah.
I still haven't done it. I could just not do it.
No, you have to do it now. They've already chopped off a baby's penis for you. You don't want that to go to waste. So.
Is it alright if I make a noise?
Try not to move too much. I'm crying.
Just thinking about all those babies.
No, you're doing well.
The injections just kept coming, but that wasn't even the worst part. The worst part was when she took out the special machine with 12 needles in it to cut up my face.
Oh, that cheekbone. Oh my God.
You're doing well.
After another half an hour, she was done. And I was kind of relieved for a few hours, after which my skin started reacting to all the cuts. It hurts to smile. Like, I'm so tight and like, I feel like my face is just like full of water and it stings. I just feel like I got a really thick face.
Well, it kind of, like if I saw you on the street, I would either think this man has really bad sunburn or has the plague.
I can't even go outside though, because I have to put sunscreen on this, but I don't want to. I can't touch my face. What if I get an infection?
Yeah, don't put sunscreen on.
So I'm just stuck.
It's stuck inside.
I don't feel any younger. I don't notice any difference really. Like, a week later, I'm still kind of red and my skin is really dry and flaky. But the only difference I notice is that sometimes I hear these strange voices. Honestly, it's been hard for me to get to sleep. Like, I lay awake at night thinking, technically doing this procedure, having a baby's penis in your face, that makes you a pedophile, right? I don't know. Anyway, I didn't feel any different. I didn't feel any younger. Like, the only thing I felt was disgust, disgust about spending so much money to ingest a part of a vulnerable human being's body. It's weird. When we set out making this video, it seemed pretty straightforward, right? That there's no living wage or social safety nets, so this lack of regulation and abundance of poor people means that the rich can become actual vampires and feast on the blood of their fellow citizens who weren't as fortunate. But it turns out that very same lack of regulation means that these expensive blood procedures don't do anything, apart from potentially killing you, right? Literally everyone's getting scammed. And while people like Alex Jones will tell you that there's this satanic cabal of powerful freaks that drink the blood of babies, you know, he's not wrong, but I feel like all his mythical language kind of hides the fact that there's nothing particularly abnormal or freakish about these vampires. Like, they're just another symptom of capitalism functioning exactly how it was designed to function. And I think it's worse than a satanic cult, because at least when you make a deal with the devil, that guy holds up his end of the deal. You know, you get superpowers. But when you do horrible, satanic crimes for the god of capitalism, you get nothing. Literally everyone gets scammed. Thanks for watching, guys. None of this would be possible without the Patreons. Obviously, my face is destroyed and I'm very scared and I feel horrible, but you know, I wouldn't be able to afford this expensive procedure without you guys. So if you want to jump on board, it's $5 a month. You get a free video every month, and you personally will be responsible for me injuring myself for views in the future. Get on there.